Katherine Pemberton had built her empire on certainty. As CEO of Pemberton Financial Holdings in Charlotte, North Carolina, she controlled investment portfolios worth hundreds of millions. Her corner office on the 42nd floor offered a view that stretched beyond the city limits, a physical manifestation of how far she'd risen. She told herself she'd earned every bit of it through merit alone. Her grandfather had started with nothing. Her father had built the company brick by brick, and she had modernized it into a powerhouse. The narrative was clean, inspiring even. It was also incomplete. What Katherine never mentioned was how her grandfather's nothing had actually been a substantial land grant. How her father's building involved redlining practices that devastated black neighborhoods. Or how her own rise had been cushioned by networks that systematically excluded anyone who didn't look like her. The morning of October 15th started like any other. Katherine rolled her wheelchair to her private elevator. The car accident 3 years ago had taken her ability to walk, but it hadn't touched her power. If anything, she'd become fiercer, more driven. "Traffic's terrible on 4th Street," her assistant mentioned. "Some community event in the Brookshire neighborhood." Katherine barely registered the comment. Brookshire, that was one of those areas. Her company's algorithms automatically flagged as high risk, low investment potential. She'd never actually been there, but she knew what it meant in their internal documents. She had no idea that by sunset, every certainty she'd built her life upon would crumble, and the very person she'd been taught to fear would become the only thing standing between her and death. Beautiful souls of the Racial Rise family, thank you for joining this journey of transformation with us. Before we continue, I want to connect with our amazing global community. Drop your country and city in the comments below. Katherine's Wednesday executive meeting proceeded with mechanical precision. 8 senior partners sat around the mahogany table, each one a variation on the same theme: white, wealthy, educated at the same handful of universities. "The Brookshire development proposal keeps coming up," said Gerald Hutchins, her chief investment officer. "The city's pushing hard for corporate investment. Demographics don't support it." Katherine responded automatically. It was corporate speak for something uglier, something passed down from her grandfather, to her father, to her. Like a family heirloom no one wanted to examine. "There's actually a community center doing remarkable work there," offered Jennifer Mills, the youngest partner. "The area's transforming." "That's anecdotal," Katherine cut her off smoothly. "Our models show consistent patterns." No one challenged her. They never did. Katherine had created an environment where her worldview was reality itself, where decisions affecting thousands of black families were made by people who'd never had a meaningful conversation with a black person as an equal. Her executive team was an echo chamber, and Katherine was the sound that kept bouncing back, unchanging, comfortable. She'd built walls so high around her beliefs that no contradictory evidence could scale them. That was about to change. The earthquake had a name: Marcus Richardson, and at that moment, he was buckling his 7-year-old daughter, Zoe, into her booster seat 6 miles away. Katherine's afternoon included a rare field visita prospective property in South End, right where renovated neighborhoods met the ones her company had systematically ignored. As they drove through the transitioning area, she watched storefronts change. Artisan coffee shops gave way to check-cashing outlets and crowded bus stops. She noticed a young black mother struggling with children and shopping bags at a shelter, and felt that familiar mix of pity and judgment. "Must be hard, making those kinds of choices," she murmured. Neither she nor her assistant questioned what choices they meant. They passed black teenagers on a corner, and Katherine instinctively checked that her door was locked. She didn't think of herself as racist. She'd attended diversity seminars, had black acquaintances at conferences, even donated to a scholarship fund once. But her hands still reached for that lock. The property inspection took 45 minutes. Returning to the van, Katherine noticed the neighborhood had grown busier. A community event was starting at the corner park. She caught glimpses of families, food vendors, a small stage being set up. "Take the back route," she told her driver. "I don't want to get stuck in that crowd." As they turned down a side street, Katherine saw a black man in a neat shirt holding hands with a small girl in a yellow dress. The child was skipping, laughing. For just a moment, Katherine saw them as simply beautiful. Then her walls came back up. That was the exception, her conditioning whispered. She had no idea the man was Marcus Richardson, that in 2 hours her life would be in his hands, and that everything she believed was about to be tested. The crisis began with a mechanical failure. Katherine had stayed late, reviewing quarterly projections. Her driver had gone home sick, but she'd called for a car service. The elevator lurched between the 38th and 39th floors. Then the lights went out. Emergency systems kicked in with sickly yellow lighting. Katherine's phone showed no signal. The emergency button produced only silence. The elevator had stopped at an angle, and her wheelchair had rolled into the corner. She couldn't reach the controls. After 90 minutes, Katherine's chest began to tighten. Panic clawed at her throat. She couldn't even pace. She could only sit there, heart racing, feeling the walls close in. Then she heard voices in the stairwell. "Hello," she called out. "I'm stuck in the elevator. Please help." The voices stopped. Footsteps approached. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" The voice was male, deep, calm. "We're going to get you out. My name's Marcus. I'm with building maintenance." "You can't manually open the door," Katherine managed. "It's too dangerous. Call the fire department." Already called them. "They're 20 minutes out, but the elevator's locked in place." "I've done this before. Just need you to stay calm for me." Something in his voice, steady, confident, cut through Katherine's panic. She focused on it as she heard tools being used. Metal scraping metal. "Tell me something. What's your name?" "Katherine." "What were you working on so late, Katherine?" The small talk helped. The door began to open, inch by inch. She could see light, then movement, then finally a face. Marcus Richardson was younger than his voice suggested, maybe 35, with kind eyes and grease on his uniform. "I see you're in a wheelchair. The elevator's about 2 feet below floor level. I'm going to help you out. Is that okay?" Katherine looked at him really. He was a black man, reaching into a confined space where a white woman was trapped. Every unconscious bias she'd ever absorbed screamed warnings. But his eyes held nothing but genuine concern. "Yes," she said quietly. "Please help me." As Marcus reached for her, something inside Katherine cracked. The comfortable lies that had always divided the world into safe and dangerous. Those lies were meeting reality. And reality wore a maintenance uniform and offered her a hand up. That night, Katherine sat in her penthouse, unable to sleep. She kept seeing Marcus's face, hearing his steady voice, feeling the strength in his hands as he'd lifted her to safety. Her mind circled back to childhood. At the country club pool with her parents, a black family had arrived. She remembered her mother's tight smile, her father's sudden suggestion they leave early. Later, over dinner, her father had made a comment about standard slipping. Even at 8, Katherine had known he meant their skin color. She'd looked at her mother, expecting contradiction, but found only silent agreement. That was the moment she'd learned. This is how we see them. But Marcus hadn't fit the narrative. He'd been competent, calm, heroic, where she'd been taught to see threats. Now Katherine was forced to confront an uncomfortable question. How many other judgments were wrong? She pulled up her company's reports on the Brookshire neighborhood. The algorithms rated it high risk. But reading deeper, she saw the actual data. Low crime rates, rising graduation numbers, active community organizations. The risk wasn't in the community, was in her company's historical pattern of withdrawing investment, which became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Her phone rang. Her father, his weekly call. Katherine almost told him about Marcus, but she knew exactly what he'd say. "You got lucky," or worse, something about one of the good ones. "I'm fine, Dad. Just tired." After she hung up, Katherine looked out at the city lights. Somewhere, Marcus was probably reading his daughter a bedtime story, unaware that he'd shaken the foundations of a stranger's worldview. He'd done nothing but be himself, competent, kind, human. But for Katherine, who'd spent 43 years seeing the world through a warped lens, humanity itself was revolutionary. The uncomfortable questions kept coming, and for the first time, Katherine didn't push them away. Beautiful souls. Our goal is to build a community of 100 hearts in the comments. Each comment represents someone ready to rise above prejudice and choose love. What moment so far has hit you the most? Katherine returned to the office determined to properly thank Marcus. The building superintendent gave her his schedule. She found him in a mechanical room on the 15th floor, surrounded by HVAC equipment. Mr. Richardson. He looked up, surprised, then smiled. Ms. Pemberton, good to see you on solid ground. I wanted to properly thank you. That was incredibly brave. Marcus shook his head. Just doing what anyone would do. Anyone wouldn't, though. He set down his tools. Can I tell you something? I saw you in that elevator, and all I saw was a person who needed help. Nothing complicated about it. His simplicity was devastating. Katherine had made everything about race complicated. He'd just seen a human being. I looked you up. I saw you're studying engineering at Central Piedmont, working full-time and raising a daughter alone. Marcus's expression shifted slightly, more guarded. My daughter Zoe is my world. The engineering degree is about building something better for her future. My wife died when Zoe was 2. Cancer? So yeah, it's just us. The matter-of-fact way he described that devastation made Katherine's throat tight. This man had lost his wife, was raising a child alone, working full-time, pursuing education, and he spoke of it like it was simply what life required. Could I buy you coffee sometime? I'd like to hear more about your engineering program. Marcus studied her. Why, you run a major investment firm. I'm the guy who fixes your elevators. What's this really about? The question forced Katherine to confront her own motivations. Honestly, you challenged something I believed about the world, and I'm trying to figure out what else I've gotten wrong. Marcus nodded slowly. That's the most honest thing I've heard from someone in your position in a long time. Okay, coffee. They met 3 days later. Marcus's passion for sustainable infrastructure was infectious. He wanted to design systems for underserved communities, combining hands-on experience with theory to solve real problems. I've seen how buildings in wealthy neighborhoods get state-of-the-art systems, while poor neighborhoods get whatever's cheapest, which means higher energy costs for people who can least afford them. That's not right. Katherine found herself genuinely engaged, but she also noticed glances from other patrons seeing a black man and white woman together, their eyes lingering too long. Later, Katherine mentioned the meeting to her father during his weekly call. You had coffee with the building's janitor? His tone was carefully neutral, which was worse than disapproval. He's a maintenance engineer. Dad, I am studying mechanical engineering. That's admirable. You sent him a thank you gift? The implication was clear. Reward him with money and move on. He's interesting. Smart. We talked about sustainable infrastructure, Katherine. Her father's voice hardened. You're feeling guilty because a black man helped you. So you're overcompensating. You two live in different worlds. You don't even know him. I don't need to. I know his kind. The phrase revealed itself for what it truly was. Pure prejudice with no basis in reality. His kind rescued me when I was trapped and terrified. Maybe it's not him who needs to be realistic about different worlds. Dad, maybe it's you. Silence stretched out. Then, watch yourself, Katherine. You're running that company because of the values I taught you. Don't throw that away for some misguided crusade. After she hung up, Katherine's hands were shaking. She'd never contradicted her father that directly, but she couldn't unsee what Marcus had shown her. The real crisis erupted 3 weeks later. Katherine stayed late again, working in her office. Around 8 p.m., she heard shouting from the lobby. Her phone rang. Marcus. Katherine, don't leave your office. Lock your door. There's a situation downstairs. Someone got past security, possibly armed. Where are you? I'm in the lobby. He came asking for you specifically. I'm trying to keep him calm until the call cut off. Katherine's rational mind said stay put. But Marcus was down there, putting himself between her and danger. She couldn't just hide. She wheeled to the elevator. When the doors opened to the lobby, she saw a disheveled man in his 30s holding a knife, and Marcus standing between him and the security desk, hands raised. Katherine Pemberton. The man shouted, "You destroyed my life. Your company foreclosed on my business, my house." Katherine recognized him, David Foster, a property owner who defaulted on a loan. It had been routine business to her. She'd never considered the human cost. "Mr. Foster, I'm Katherine Pemberton. Please, put down the knife. Let's talk." Talk. I tried to talk. Called your office 50 times. You people never responded. You just took everything. Marcus took a small step forward. Sir, I hear you. What happened isn't right, but this isn't the answer. Don't move. Foster swung the knife toward Marcus. I know what it's like to lose everything, Marcus said calmly. My wife died and left me with medical debt that almost buried us. I know how the system works. You're angry at the right thing. You're just aiming at the wrong target. Foster's hand wavered. She signed the papers. She destroyed me. She did. And she should answer for that. But not like this. You're a father, right? You think your daughter wants to visit you in prison? Sirens wailed outside. Foster's desperation ramped up. They're going to kill me. Not if you drop the knife right now. Put it down and let me do the talking when they come in. You've got about 30 seconds to make that choice. Foster's face crumpled. He dropped the knife and collapsed to his knees, sobbing. Marcus immediately kicked the knife away and helped the man sit, speaking softly, offering comfort even as police burst through the doors. The officers' guns came out. Hands up. Everyone, hands up. Marcus raised his hands immediately, but Katherine saw how the officers tracked Marcus's movements while barely registering Foster. She saw how the situation was about to be misread. Katherine's voice cut through the chaos. The man on the floor entered with a knife. This man is building maintenance. He de-escalated the situation and got the suspect to surrender. The knife is by the security desk. The lead officer recalibrated. They moved to Foster. Two others approached Marcus for his statement. Weapons lowered. Mr. Richardson is a hero, Katherine said firmly. He put himself at risk to protect me. I want that in the official report. After the police left, Katherine and Marcus stood alone in the lobby. You could have been killed, Katherine said. So could you. But you're not responsible for me. Marcus shook his head. That's not how it works for me. I don't calculate who deserves help. I help because helping is right. Katherine felt something break open in her chest. He was right about what my company did. I signed those foreclosure papers. I never thought about the people behind them. I just saw numbers. I know, Marcus said quietly, but you're thinking about it now. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Katherine looked at this man who'd saved her twice now. This man she'd been taught to fear, who'd shown her nothing but courage and grace. Everything, she said. I'm going to change everything. That night, Katherine sat in her office, confronting her own reflection in the dark window glass. Who was she really? She'd told herself a story for 43 years. Self-made success, merit-based achiever, firm-minded businesswoman. But tonight had stripped that story bare. David Foster's desperation was her responsibility. Marcus's courage was her indictment. Katherine wheeled to her bathroom and turned on every light. She looked at herself in the mirror, really looked. She saw a woman who'd inherited wealth and called it earned, who'd benefited from systemic racism and called it merit, who'd made decisions that destroyed lives and called it business. I've been a coward, she said to her reflection. She thought about her accident, how she'd raged against the unfairness, how she demanded the world accommodate her disability. And she'd gotten it because she had power, because she was white, because she could demand, but she'd never extended that empathy to others. She'd never wondered what barriers Black families faced that were just as real as her physical ones. Her phone buzzed. Marcus, you okay? She stared at the message. Even after everything, he was checking on her. Katherine typed back, no, but I'm seeing clearly for the first time. Thank you for that. His response came quickly. Seeing clearly is just the beginning. The hard part is living differently. Katherine opened her laptop and began writing a letter to herself. I, Katherine Marie Pemberton, acknowledge that I have built my success on systems designed to benefit people like me and harm people like Marcus Richardson and David Foster. I acknowledge that my prejudice has been real, active, and destructive. I acknowledge that I have been afraid of Black men, not because of anything they did, but because I was taught to be afraid. I acknowledge that my fear has caused harm. She kept writing, each sentence a brick removed from the walls around her heart. She wrote about her father, her grandfather, the casual racism of country club conversations. I cannot undo the past, but I can choose differently from this moment forward. I can use my power to dismantle the systems I once upheld. I can risk my comfort for justice. I can be brave enough to lose what I built if that's what real change requires. Katherine printed the letter and taped it to her mirror. Every morning, she would read it. Every morning, she would choose again. Her phone rang. Her father. She let it go to voicemail, then listened. "Katherine, Gerald told me about your proposal to change our investment criteria. We need to talk. This is getting out of hand." She didn't call back. Instead, she opened her company's strategic plan and began rewriting it from the ground up, not tweaking around the edges. Fundamental restructuring of how they evaluated communities, how they measured success, how they defined risk. It would cost her allies. It would cost her relationships. It might cost her the company. But Katherine had finally understood. Courage wasn't about comfort. It was about choosing right action even when it was terrifying. She worked through the night. And when the sun rose over Charlotte, Katherine Pemberton was not the same woman. The mirror had done its work. Now came living what she'd seen. Share this story. Tag someone who needs to hear it. And let's create a ripple effect of positive change together. The board meeting was scheduled for Friday morning. Katherine spent the time preparing, but more importantly, listening. She reached out to Brookshire community leaders, not to pitch investment, but to ask what they needed. She met with Marcus again, bringing her head of risk assessment, forcing him to hear directly from someone the algorithms labeled high risk. Friday arrived, the boardroom filled with the usual faces. Her father sat in his customary seat, having flown in specifically for this meeting. "Ladies and gentlemen," Katherine began, 3 weeks ago, I got stuck in an elevator. A maintenance engineer named Marcus Richardson saved me. That moment began the most important education of my life, and what I learned requires us to fundamentally change how this company operates. The room shifted uncomfortably. Gerald Hutchins interrupted. "Katherine, we've reviewed your proposal. The financial risk is a myth we created to justify racism." Katherine's words landed like stones. "We've hidden behind algorithms that simply encode historical discrimination. We've called it business strategy when it's systemic prejudice. And I'm done perpetuating it." Her father leaned forward. "Katherine, that's quite an accusation built on redlining, built on discriminatory lending, built on extracting wealth from Black communities while refusing to invest in them." Katherine met her father's eyes. "Dad, I love you, but I can't follow in your footsteps anymore." She pulled up her presentation. Not charts, but faces. David Foster and his daughter, families displaced by foreclosures, communities starved of investment, and Marcus, who worked full-time, raised a daughter alone, pursued education, and still had time to save people who'd never given him a fair chance. This isn't about charity, it's about justice. It's about recognizing that our risk models are just prejudiced against wearing a suit. She outlined her proposal. New investment criteria that evaluated community potential, a review board including community voices, reparative investment in neighborhoods they'd harmed, and public accountability for past practices. "This will cost us some clients. Some of you may resign. My father may disown me, but I'd rather lose this company than keep profiting from injustice." The room erupted. The vote, when it came, was close. 6 against, 5-4. She'd lost. Her father stood. "Katherine, you've let emotion cloud your judgment. The board is placing you on administrative leave, pending review of your capacity to lead." Katherine had known this might happen. "I understand. Before I go, I want you to know something. When David Foster came here, desperate and destroyed by our decision, a Black man named Marcus Richardson put his life on the line to protect me. He showed more courage and compassion in 10 minutes than I've shown in my entire career. And if this board can't see that, then maybe I don't belong here anyway." She wheeled toward the door, then paused. "I'm not giving up. If this company won't change, I'll start one that will. You can take my title, but you can't take my conscience. Not anymore." As Katherine left the building, she passed Marcus in the lobby. Their eyes met. "I heard," he said quietly. "You okay?" "I'm better than okay. I finally chose courage over comfort." Marcus smiled. "For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. What you did took real bravery. I learned it from you. So what now?" "Now I figure out how to build something better. I was hoping you might have some ideas about sustainable infrastructure. Turns out I might need a partner who actually knows what communities need." Marcus studied her, then smiled. "Let's talk about it. But first, I need to pick up Zoe. You want to meet her?" "I'd love that." As they walked out together, Katherine felt lighter than she had in years. She'd lost her company, probably her inheritance, definitely her father's approval. But she'd gained something infinitely more valuable: the ability to look at herself in the mirror and see someone who'd chosen right over easy. 6 months later, Katherine stood in the Brookshire Community Center, watching Marcus present sustainable building design to local high school students. Zoe sat in the front row, beaming. Katherine's new venture, Equitable Futures Investment Group, had secured its first project, a mixed-use development in Brookshire designed with community leaders, featuring affordable housing, small business incubators, and green technology. Marcus was lead engineer. The project would be profitable, but more importantly, it would serve the community rather than displace it. The road hadn't been easy. Her father still wasn't speaking to her. Half her old social circle had dropped away. There were days when the isolation felt crushing, but then there were days like today. After Marcus's presentation, a young black student approached. "Ms. Pemberton, my mom works at the factory in the new building. She's been unemployed for 2 years. This is going to change our family's life." Katherine felt tears in her eyes. "Your mom is going to help build something amazing." Later, Marcus found Katherine in a quiet corner. "You did good today. We did good. I couldn't do this without you. Without your knowledge, your connections, your credibility. Don't minimize what you did, Katherine. You risked everything to do what was right. That matters." Katherine thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago, trapped in more ways than just that elevator. "I spent 43 years building walls. Walls between me and people who looked different. I told myself those walls protected me, but they just made me smaller. You showed me there was a bigger world beyond those walls. We all have walls. The question is whether we're brave enough to tear them down." "You were." Zoe ran over. "Daddy, can Ms. Katherine come to dinner?" Marcus looked at Katherine. "We're making spaghetti. Zoe's specialty. You interested?" 6 months ago, she would have made an excuse. Now, she didn't hesitate. "I would love that." That evening, eating imperfect spaghetti, listening to Marcus explain his designs, watching how he helped Zoe with homework, Katherine understood something profound. This was the rise that gave the movement its name. Not ascending above others, but rising to meet your best self. Rising above prejudice and fear. Her phone buzzed. "Jennifer Mills, 3 more board members resigned. We have the votes now. Companies ready to implement your changes if you come back as a consultant. Interested?" Katherine looked around Marcus's small, warm apartment, so different from the penthouse she'd once thought defined success. She thought about her old company, the possibility of redemption. She typed back, "Send me the proposal, but I'm not coming back to how things were. If they want change, they come to the new model. Terms are non-negotiable." Marcus looked over. "Good news. Possibility of good news. The company wants me back as consultant. You going to do it?" Katherine smiled. "Only if they're ready to truly rise. Otherwise, I'm exactly where I need to be." She'd lost the corner office, the family approval, the comfortable certainty, but she'd gained something infinitely more valuable: the ability to recognize the person in the mirror. Someone who'd chosen growth over comfort, justice over convenience, love over fear. The rise was complete. Not because she'd reached some destination, but because she'd finally started walking in the right direction. And she was no longer walking alone. Marcus raised his glass of lemonade. 2 new beginnings. Katherine raised hers. To rise together. Zoe raised her juice box. 2 spaghetti. They laughed together. 3 people from different worlds building a new one. Proving that when we have the courage to tear down walls, to challenge comfortable lies, to choose connection over division, we don't just change ourselves. We change everything. That's the Racial Rise promise. Every story changes a heart. Every heart changes the world. And together, we all rise. Beautiful souls of the Racial Rise family. Thank you for joining Katherine and Marcus on this journey of transformation. This story reminds us that change is possible when we choose courage over comfort, when we examine our prejudices honestly, and when we risk everything for what's right. Drop your country and city in the comments below and tell us which moment challenged you the most. What are you going to do differently starting today? Our goal is to build a community of 100 hearts committed to rising above prejudice and choosing love. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Together, we're creating a ripple effect of positive change. Remember, Every story changes a heart, and every heart changes the world. You are part of the racial rise movement. Let's rise together.